Welcome to the Story A Day podcast. This is Julie Duffy from storyaday.org, encouraging you to be a writer every day, not someday. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Julie here from Story A Day, and here we are approaching the end of the year. Yes, I know it's early in December, but I think it's time, don't you, to just take a moment and pause. Last week I was encouraging you to think about writing goals and what you might do next year, what you might have achieved this year. That's all well and good. But I've been working this week on the content for my new workshop on writing bios and summaries. And it's got me thinking a lot about essentials and about how little is actually necessary. So let's start with the bios and summaries this week, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about your general writing life and life towards the end of this episode. So the reason I'm doing a bio and summary workshop this coming Monday, and yes, there will be replays available, because I know that writers love nothing more than A, talking about themselves, and B, taking their deep, long, nuanced, subplotted and layered fiction and smushing it down to like a two-dimensional version of itself that is just stripped of all of the things that make it unique. You love it. Don't we all love that? I mean, I mentioned the word summary to people and their eyes glaze over. I mentioned the word bio to people and they shudder. But these are things that if you want to go beyond writing for your own enjoyment, and if you don't, that's fine. But if you want to go beyond writing for your own enjoyment, writing your bio and writing your summaries, they're just skills that you have to develop. And you're a writer. They are skills you absolutely can develop. In this world that we live in, where everybody changes jobs, nobody has a career for life anymore, these are skills that everybody needs. Everybody has to be able to talk about themselves. Everybody has to be able to sell themselves and sell their work to people. We have an amazing advantage in that we are wordsmiths. This is what we do for fun. We just have to work on getting our egos out of the way. So the purpose of the bio and the purpose of any summary, whether it's a query for a novel or whether it's a one-line summary of a short story that's going to lead into your story in an anthology or interest an editor in your story before they actually pick it up and read your submission, the purpose of these documents is not to explain everything about you or your story. These are marketing documents. And before you get all weird about that as well, you don't have to be a sleazy used car salesman. Apologies to the good used car salesman out there. I've bought from you many times. But you don't have to be a sleazy salesperson if you think about your story as a gift to the reader. Think about how you have felt when you are reading something that just transports you, that you love. Think how grateful you are to that writer. Think how annoyed you would be if they hadn't put it out there, or if the person who recommended it to you hadn't done a good job of it. If you tell someone, yeah, I read this story, it was okay, are they going to be moved to read it? No. If somebody says to you, I just read this amazing short story, it just changed the way that I look at the whole werewolf genre, then you're going to be like, well, I have to read that now. That's what you're trying to do with a summary. You're not trying to squish everything from your story into one paragraph. You're trying to make a case for why your story is worth someone's time. And if that seems egocentric, take a step back, think about how you feel when you get that gift from someone. And think about transferring that onto your work. Your work is a gift. You want to give it to somebody. You're going to wrap it up nicely. You're not just going to like bundle it up in some old newspaper, even if you can find old newspapers these days, but you're going to wrap it up nicely and put a bow on it. That's all we're talking about with summaries. With a summary, you want to give people a sense of who the story is about, what their desire is and what the obstacle is. And you can use the short story framework that I've put together to do exactly this. You can do it for a short story. You can do it for a whole novel. You can take that little framework and you can go, okay, who's my main character, my protagonist, my point of view character? And if you have multiple, then you might need to pick one, but you might not. That's more detail than I can go into in this podcast. But basically, go into the Story a Day short story framework. Write down your character, not their name, but who they are. So, and give them an adjective. So your rebellious teenager, your desperate housewife, whatever it is you're writing about. Then talk about their desire, and then look at that short story framework and think about what's the obstacle, what's standing in your character's way, and what's the first decision they make. And because of that, then that's basically all you need for a summary, for anything from a short story to a novel. In fact, it might even be too long for a short story. For a short story, you can get away with a lot less. And that's one of the things we're going to be working on in that workshop on Monday. I will write more about it too, I'm sure. When it comes to your bio, I'm trucking along here because I don't want to take up too much of your time because you should be writing. But when it comes to your bio, really don't freak out about this. If you have no publication credits, that's fine. No editor has ever taken a story because of the person's publication credits. Even if they commission stories, they can still turn them down if they don't like the actual story. If you have no publication credits and a great story, that is going to work better than if you have 14 publication credits and the story you submit is a bit meh. So, bare minimum for a bio, your name is a writer, optionally who lives in Pennsylvania or wherever you live. Okay? Julie Duffy is a writer who lives in Pennsylvania. If you want to be folksy, you can include something about yourself with her husband and 2 children. Or you can include something quirky, especially if your story, for example, if I write a story about knitting, I can say Julie Duffy is a writer who lives in Pennsylvania. She knits and juggles, though rarely at the same time. That's one that I use because it's a little bit quirky. It catches people's attention. Maybe they also knit, maybe they also juggle, maybe they notice that I've got a sense of humor, and that encourages them to read my story. So put things in your bio that are maybe just a little bit would catch somebody's eye. If your story is about a particular thing and you have a particular expertise there, Julie Duffy is a writer who lives in Pennsylvania. She grew up in Scotland, which is where many of her stories are set. You know, especially if I've submitted a story that is set in Scotland, that would be an appropriate bio. If you have credits, put them in. Who cares if they're prestigious? Put them in. No reader is really going to go and look up all of your references. I mean, you shouldn't lie about it, but if you have been published in an obscure publication that didn't pay you to publish your story, put the name of the journal in your bio. It's fine. 1 sentence is all you need. It's just something to humanize you for the readership. So, strip back to the essentials. You can get away with that single line, your name is a writer. You can also talk about why you write. You can talk about what books you love or what writers you love, if you want a little humanizing detail. But if you absolutely can't stand this idea, your name is a writer who lives in or has lived in or something, or who loves, one detail is more than enough. When we think about things like summaries and bios and writing careers and lifestyle, we can tend to go from the big picture to all of the details very, very quickly. We are deep thinkers. That's why we write, because we're deep thinkers. But being a deep thinker is like a hair's breadth away from being an overthinker. And we need tools to pull ourselves out of that tendency. So I'm encouraging you this week to think about stripping back, taking out everything but the essentials. When you're writing a summary of a story, especially of a novel, you can include way more information than the reader needs to judge if the story is for them. If you include the character, the conflict, a sense of the tone and mood of the story, you're done. And so likewise, I want you to think about also this week, if you're doing an end of year review, if you're thinking about what you've achieved this year, if you're setting your goals for next year, I would like you to also think about all of the stuff in your life that's been going on. I don't know about you, but there's been some big stuff this year in my life. Big stuff in everybody's lives all the time. This is sort of the nature of the beast. We can make plans based on the best of all possible worlds. And that leads to the kind of frustration I was talking about last week. If we acknowledge everything that's going on, and if we give ourselves space to recover, to take a week off, if you need to take 2-3 weeks off from your writing, allow that to happen. Put a date on your calendar for when you're going to come back to your writing. And I would suggest it's not the 1st of January because there's a lot of pressure around that date. I would suggest that it's maybe the 9th of January or the 15th of January. And you're just going to take time off to relax and read. Or perhaps your life makes it easier for you to write at this time of year, and you've got this, couple of weeks coming up where you're going to have less going on at work because maybe other people aren't working as hard at this point of the year, and maybe you're going to have more time for writing now. So you're going to be able to ignore what I'm saying now and keep it for later when work ramps up again, or when, whatever else is in your life kicks in. But do consider, what's the minimum that you can get away with doing right now and stay happy? Not forever, just for now. The fall, or in the Northern Hemisphere at least, the fall tends to be a busy back-to-schooly kind of energy. And January is very dangerous for that too. There's a new year, let's get a new fresh start energy as well. What's the minimum that you can get away with and sustain and be happy? Because we don't need to be sprinting all the time. We really don't. I mean, just spending this couple of weeks looking at summaries of lots of writers, bios of lots of writers, the thing that and commentary from editors and agents, the thing I keep coming across is, don't say too much, don't do too much, don't put too much in there. Choose the high quality verb or noun or metaphor and put that one sentence in about your setting that really just is worth reading. And in our lives, we can be running around like chickens with our heads cut off, doing all the things. And maybe it's time to consider, what is the specific high quality detail that you want to focus on for the next couple of weeks? Now, I'm not saying that you're going to be able to turn off everything in your life. That's partly why I'm talking about this, because your writing is a thing that matters to you, and it's the high quality. It's one of the high quality things in your life. Doesn't mean you need to be doing it all the time. Doesn't mean you need to be racing to write 1,000 words a day. What is something meaningful that you can be doing? And if that meaningful thing is walking away for 3 weeks and just concentrating on reading or living, then please feel invited to do that. What are the essentials that will keep you happy, connected to your writing, connected to yourself? And can you do that, or maybe even a little less? over the next couple of weeks. Just really, really please be kind to yourself and have a really lovely December and a happy holiday. And I will see you around here at the blog and on the podcast, and maybe you'll come to a workshop, but I just want you to know that it's okay to chill. Keep being a writer and have a great creative week. Thanks for listening. Why not come over to the blog at storyaday.org and check out this week's writing prompts and articles. And in the meantime, have a great creative week and of course, keep writing.